Rousey a question because I asked her a question on my show and she said it wasn't the time to answer that question. And so can I ask you that question now? I asked you on Monday how you felt about some critics out there who are hearing you talk about fighter pay, hearing you talk about the sport, about the UFC, fighters like Khamzat Chimaev, who was on camera criticizing, saying that you're essentially biting the hand that fed you back in the day, that you're coming across as ungrateful for everything that they did for you. What is your response to those people?
Well, I would want to make something abundantly clear, and that's that I owe Dana and the Fertittas immensely, and I would be caught dead before you ever heard me say a bad thing about any of them. But my loyalty is to them and not the company they sold. And I do not owe TKO's UFC a damn thing. And fucking Cleft Lip Lincoln is just hating because at his press conference for his fight, people are asking about me and my fight because no one gives a shit about his ineffectual wrestle fests. And people are actually, they can't stop talking about this fight because it's so stacked, and they're actually excited to see me fight because unlike Kumquat, I have 100% finish rate.
Okay. Thank you for that, Ronda. Just want to wait for this plane to land here. I also wanted to ask...
Ronda Rousey is back, and she is not here to make friends. 10 years away from the sport. 2 brutal knockout losses on her record. And yet somehow, some way, people cannot stop talking about her. Not about Khamzat Chimaev's next fight. Not about Kayla Harrison's championship ambitions. About Ronda. About this fight. About Saturday night. And that right there tells you everything you need to know about why she walked back through that door. The fight is set. Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. 2 legends. 2 pioneers. 2 women who helped build the entire foundation of women's combat sports going head-to-head for the first time ever. And the build-up to this thing has been absolutely explosive, not just because of what's happening inside the ring, but because of every single thing happening outside of it. Let's start with Khamzat Chimaev, because apparently he could not help himself. While preparing for his fight against Strickland at UFC 328, Chimaev decided to go out of his way to take shots at Rousey after she made some pointed comments about how the UFC treats its fighters during her promotional run for this event. Chimaev hopped on his YouTube channel and said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that without the UFC, there is no Ronda Rousey. That she should be grateful. That money is money and fighters should not complain about what they earn. Now here is the thing about poking a bear. Sometimes the bear pokes back harder than you ever expected. Rousey promised at the pre-fight press conference that she would address Chimaev directly. And when Thursday rolled around and someone brought up his comments, she did not take a breath before going straight at him. She made it crystal clear first that she has nothing but love and loyalty for Dana White and the Fertitta brothers. She said she would be caught dead before speaking badly about any of them personally. But here is the distinction she drew, and it is an important one. Her loyalty is to those people, not to the company they sold. Not to TKO's UFC. She said she owes that entity absolutely nothing. And then she shifted gears and went after Chimaev in a way that is going to live on the internet forever. She pointed out the obvious. That at his own press conference, ahead of his own fight, reporters were not asking about him. They were asking about her. About Carano. About Saturday. She said nobody cares about his fights because, her words, they are ineffectual and forgettable. And then she dropped the line that the internet has not stopped replaying since Thursday afternoon. She called him Kumquat. Said unlike him, she carries a 100% finish rate. That people are actually excited to watch her compete because when Ronda Rousey fights, the fight ends. Brutal. Calculated. And, honestly, kind of hard to argue with. But Chimaev was not the only name on her list this week. Because Kayla Harrison decided to enter the conversation too, and Rousey had plenty to say about that as well. These two have history. They train together. They know each other. And somewhere along the way that relationship curdled into something sharp and competitive. Harrison is the current UFC Women's Bantamweight champion. She is recovering from neck surgery right now, and is expected to face Amanda Nunes, the woman most people consider the greatest female fighter who has ever lived, later this year in a title fight. So Harrison is not exactly lacking for credibility or accomplishments when she speaks. But when Rousey appeared at a separate press conference in New York and started building the narrative around her fight with Carano, Harrison pushed back publicly during a UFC broadcast. She said calling Rousey versus Carano the greatest fight of all time is a stretch. She said one woman has not fought in a decade and has back-to-back knockout losses on her record. The other has been out of competition for 17 years and is in her 40s. Her exact framing was this: I am chasing greatness, you are chasing money. We are different. Now that is a clean line. That is a quotable moment. And Rousey knew it, which is probably why her response was so pointed and so personal. Rousey did not run from the money angle at all. She leaned into it completely. Her argument was simple: in professional fighting, there is no such thing as discount greatness. The biggest money fight is the biggest fight, period. Those two things are not in opposition. They're the same thing. She said she and Harrison clearly operate with completely different definitions of what it means to be great, and she made sure to distinguish exactly what greatness means to her. It is not about winning another title. She has already done that 8 consecutive times, more than anyone else in the history of the division. There is nothing left to prove on that scoreboard. What she is talking about now is bigger than a belt. She is talking about cultural impact, historical significance, changing the infrastructure of the sport itself. Think about what this fight actually represents if you zoom out for a second. This is happening on a platform outside of the UFC. MVP, the promotion co-founded by Jake Paul and Nakisa Bidarian, is putting this together. Netflix, the largest streaming platform on the planet with over 325 million subscribers globally, is involved. If this event performs the way everyone involved believes it can, the ripple effects could be enormous. Both Paul and Bidarian have already said publicly that there is a long-term vision here if this first event delivers. A real, sustainable rival to the UFC. One that gives fighters actual leverage and actual bargaining power in a sport where they have historically had almost none. And Rousey is not just the main event of this thing. She sees herself as potentially the face of what comes next. She floated the idea of a martial arts film with Carano for Netflix after the fight. She talked about what it would mean for the sport if this creates genuine competition at the top of the MMA landscape. She is not thinking about Saturday night as the end of the story. She is thinking about it as chapter 1. And when Harrison's name came up one final time, Rousey closed it out the way only she can. She said she is not chasing greatness. She is greatness. And everyone else is chasing her. Now look, you can agree with that, or you can push back on it. That is totally fair. She is coming off 2 losses. She has been out of the sport for a decade. There are real questions about where her skills are right now versus where they were at her peak. Carano herself has not competed in 17 years. The athletic questions are completely legitimate. But here is what you cannot deny. This press conference moment existed. This fight is being talked about across every platform. Fighters who have nothing to do with this event are being asked about it at their own events. Netflix is streaming combat sports. A real alternative to the UFC ecosystem might actually be forming in real time. And at the center of all of it, somehow, is Ronda Rousey. Whether she wins on Saturday, whether the knockout finish happens or not, whether the Netflix deal turns into a movie and MVP becomes a genuine rival league, none of that is settled yet. But the conversation? The attention? The cultural moment? That part is already happening. And Ronda Rousey made sure of it.